Welcome to Live, Let, Thrive, a podcast about the Airbnb life, the share economy, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Micah and Steve.
Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Live, Let, Thrive. And this is episode 281 of your favorite short-term, mid-term, long-term rental podcast, share economy podcast in the world, coming at you from Fort Worth and Arlington, Texas. Micah couldn't make it tonight, but we have the famous, the world famous, the Mac Daddy, the OG, Mike Brown joining us, man. How you doing, Mike Brown?
Doing good, man. Glad to be here. Always enjoy, sharing with you guys and learning about things that's going on in the industry. We're both in the industry, so we see all the things that's going on. But doing good. I'll say one of the biggest things since the last time maybe I've been on the show is with my newborn, my daughter. As a new dad, I've been very, very busy. So I'm glad to just have the opportunity to take a step back and kind of join you guys. So sorry, Micah couldn't make it, but
yeah, man. A new dad. That's big time, man. I'll tell you real quick. We're gonna cover a lot of topics today, including the Dallas Airbnb short-term rental ban injunction that just took place. We're gonna go over that. But real quick speaking on being a dad. Because I got little ones, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and both of them in school. The 6-year-old's in first grade, the 4-year-old's in early education, and it's so cool because, no matter how bad a day you're having, and being an entrepreneur ain't easy, man. It ain't. I mean, y'all listeners out there, me and Mike Brown can vouch for it, especially if you still got a full-time job and you're an entrepreneur. It's like you're working 2 jobs, but more, because being an entrepreneur, it isn't a clock in, clock out type of job. So you got all this, and you got a family, you got all the family obligations, you got wife and kids, and you gotta keep everybody happy, right? You gotta try. But I took a few days off from the day job, and I could do that. It's flexible, and so today I went, I got to walk my 6-year-old Lucy to school, which is awesome. She loves it when I walk her to school. And then later on, we went to pick up Abby, my 4-year-old, from early education. And so she wasn't expecting to see me on a Wednesday, right? And so she goes, they come out of the class, and she goes and runs to mama first, and then she sees me, and she's like, "Hey, Daddy!" And she runs at me full speed.
it's one of those good surprises.
Yeah, that just squeezes me, man. And this, no matter how bad a day you're having or what you're going through, man, and nothing feels better than that. It'll just like, this is what life's all about. This is why we're doing all this, delayed gratification, while we're busting our humps now, just to, get to that point. And if you can get to that point a little quicker and start getting those moments in, and being able to, drop her off and pick her up, kind of deal, instead of being stuck at the grind at the 9 to 5. Because that's the cool thing about being an entrepreneur. You can escape for these moments, and you can still, go back and hit the grind a little bit. But that's why we're doing it. I'm happy to have another dad on the show that understands. And yeah, man, let's dive into it. Let's start off with the Dallas ban injunction. I think Micah sent us that news today, and then so of course we Googled it, verified, and apparently there's a lawsuit against the city of Dallas for them trying to ban Airbnb's short-term rentals, in certain areas, and 100% in single family homes. And now it was supposed to go into effect December 12th, I believe. 13th. Okay.
14th. Yeah.
Okay, one of those.
Just a couple days away.
A few days away. We're on December 6th right now, if you're listening to this in 2023. So it's like 6-7 days away, whatever. And a lot of people have been fire selling, dumping furniture, throwing it on the curb, whatever. Handing in the leases to the apartment complexes, or just whatever, bailing, because they're just shitting bricks. But then all of a sudden we got the news today, like I said, about a week away before this thing happens, that there's an injunction. And so, yeah, the judge granted an injunction, and it's going to be, they won't be able to enforce the new ban or regulations until June of 2024. So that gives us operators a good 6 months to figure out what we're going to do and continue to operate. It's big news, man. Big news. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we self-manage some of our own properties as well as manage others. And the majority of the ones that we manage were basically on the chopping block for this particular regulation, right? They were single family homes, they were in single family zoned areas. And so to your point, a lot of people have been, selling furniture and just getting out of the game because they were unsure what was going to happen. Maybe a lot of people didn't have faith in what Dallas STRA was doing, and or they just didn't want to have to deal with it anymore. Because you got to remember, this is twofold, right? In terms of the people that are getting out of the industry right now, this is people that have fear of an uncertain future to be able to operate because of the regulations. But then you also have those people, whether they've been operating for 6 months, a year, or maybe even longer than a year, that have started to see these profits erode away, right? We've all heard of the term Airbnb bust and saturation and all this kind of stuff. It all varies in varying degrees from market to market, right? There's going to be some markets that have it worse than others. So, for example, Austin, I mean, it's pretty bad in Austin. Fortunately, they are a regulated market, so it does limit or minimize like the huge influx of people just jumping in, right? Because right now there's no barrier to entry. I can go list something tomorrow, right? As long as I have an address and a furnished property, kind of thing. And so you have two different things, and yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people, whether it's on Facebook and other areas, selling furniture like crazy. I literally just had somebody text me before this call saying, hey, it was actually a really interesting message. Hey, I have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And it's an arbitrage. Somebody's in there for a year. It's furnished. They're paying rent, but they want to get out. They want to do a lease takeover. I don't know how many months are left, but it's like, why would somebody want to do that? They're paying you money. It may not be what you want because typically for monthly stays you're doing a discount, right? Compared to shorter stays.
I know what you mean, man. Because I went through that with some partners in Houston recently, and actually last weekend had to make a little trip to Houston to go help unload, to help unpack get all the furniture out of one of these 3-story freaking townhomes, the gentrification specials that are popping up in a hood near you. So I had to get all the
got on your knees on that one, man.
Man, so we had 2 of them, and this is when I mean it's we're semi youngsters. The oldsters probably done told us that businesses go in cycles, everything goes in cycles, right? But we're like, when everything's going up, we're like, oh crap, let's load up, let's get anything we can, blah blah blah. Oh, opportunities, they're gonna let us do short-term rentals, let's get them, let's grab 2 and furnish them right beside each other, perfect. And that's what we did in Houston. These 2 townhomes, right? Like I said, there's gentrification specials, 3-story townhomes, and we furnished them all pretty, got them on Airbnb and all that. And I started out doing okay, and then Houston just went under, man, from the saturation. Too many people got on the boat, it just started sinking. And so we didn't even, we were getting out of, we respected our lease, we stayed there. We probably broke even the whole time, maybe paid for the furniture, I don't know. And we're bouncing, and we got the first unit. We were able to sell all that. People came and picked it all up and bought it, whatever. The second unit, we had to mark it way down to like $5,000 each unit, where we spent probably like 15 on each unit. You know what I'm saying? We're just trying to get whatever we could. We just want to get rid of it.
You said just a year?
Yeah, just a year lease. Yeah. And so the next unit, we were able to sell that one too. We might have done 18-month lease. Anyways, we were able to sell that one too, but the girl who was gonna buy it couldn't. Like, we were unloading on a Saturday, she wasn't gonna be able to pick it up till like a Friday, so we had to go put it in another spot, and then she was gonna go pick it up on Friday. So it was I was cursing out. I was like, why am I arbitraging? Arbitrage sucks. You have to get rid of all this furniture. You got to do something with the furniture, and everybody's going to be fickle and not want to pay you, anything for it. And then they're going to want you to deliver it to them. They're going to want you to take it apart. They want you to inventory it. They want all this crap, right? And I'm like, arbitrage, man, just ain't worth it no more. And I was just thinking that in my head, right? And I want to know your thoughts on Mike always he says, just, oh, it's better to buy, yeah, but that costs a lot of money to buy a house and stuff, but what are your thoughts on, is arbitrage still a viable way to make money, and is it worth the headaches of dealing with all that furniture and stuff?
That's a good point. So it depends on what market you're in, and even on top of that, it depends. I think there was a conversation from a post that Sean had recently around being able to make the deal happen on the front end. So, and I know that may not always be possible, especially if you're picking up, one single family home here, one single family home there. I think where the biggest opportunity for those that are already doing it and are those that want to do it in certain markets is in multifamily, because we've all seen, in many cases from a lot of these cities, they're really targeting single family homes at the end of the day in residential neighborhoods for not wanting short-term rentals because of, the families that live there. I'm not saying all of the claims are valid, because there's clearly been lots of research and articles and things done on the housing market and its impact or lack thereof from short-term rentals. Because, that's one of the biggest claims that they have is, they're bringing down home values. They're messing up affordable housing and things of that nature, which is all not true. If we can, I'd love to post some of the links to those studies that have been done in various cities throughout the U.S. That demystifies and debunks that theory that many people have. But at the end of the day, they try to use short-term rentals as a scapegoat, right? To get what they want. They want these people out. They don't want random people in their neighborhoods that they don't know about, and things of that nature. But to go back to your question, it depends on your market, and it depends on how you got in. For a lot of people that got in, and it's quite a few, I can't remember what the metrics are, but there's been exponential growth in the past 12 to 24 months within the short-term rental industry. I think the percentages were like 3x, or not 3x, like in the hundreds, like in terms of the multiplier of the amount of short-term rentals that have come online all over the US. And so for those that have gotten in recently, they have paid at the high market, high price point for rent, right? Because rents have continued to go up. Let's just say if there were individuals that purchased even the same boat, or even rented and did a multi-year lease, let's just say back in 2000 or 2019, they paid a much lower rate. So therefore they have much more margin to work with, as opposed to those, that are renting 1-bedroom apartments now for $2,000 kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to someone else that's renting an apartment, similar value, similar class, class A or even class B property, for $1,400, even $1,300 and some change a month. That's a big spread, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's even before all the other expenses that are incurred with owning or not owning, operating a short-term rental, especially if you want to do it right. And we're talking about insurance, we're talking about the noise monitoring system, the smart locks, all this other stuff, which people for various reasons don't do those kinds of things. And at the end of the day, every operator is different because their risk tolerance is different. Now, some of that risk tolerance is based on ignorance, and then for others, it's based on just previous knowledge that they've learned from other mentors, people like you guys, and all the knowledge that you drop on all these episodes. And so, really, it comes down to where you're operating and how you started your operations. Because if you were able to get in a great deal, multi-year lease and a lower rent rate, then you're going to be able to survive much longer and have much more margin and spread than others. It also comes down to all these other things, strategies, amenities, so on and so forth, as well as value and design. I still see people putting up cookie cutter places in this market, and you can't do that. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be luxe for every single property you have, but and I think it also goes without saying, if you're gonna try to do multiple doors, you probably should diversify. So it's meaning not putting all your eggs in one basket, whether that's the same market or a different market or different building typology. So with a single family townhome, so all those are differentiators, right? So one of the things we do is have a diversification of our properties. So we have some that are midterm, some that are short term. We've even started doing long term now as well for other folks. And so it just really boils down to diversification and just kind of strategy. I've probably seen great people in bad markets, but also bad people in bad markets. And usually the differentiator are one of those three things I just mentioned.
Yeah, it's funny you should say diversification, because I am, my company, Argis Rentals, shameless plug. We're very diversified. Anything from 1-bedroom condos or apartments, condos, whatever, in downtown and the grittier areas to 4-bedroom houses in the suburbs. We go, we run the spectrum, the gambit. And right when you said that, I was like, man, my 3 and 4-bedroom houses, I love them so much, especially where I'm at. And I just get those nice beefy freaking what's it called, the insurance stays, and mostly insurance stays. And then I'll fill in the gaps with like some good 4 or 5 night stays from people paying hot top dollar for these places. Yeah. But that could always come to an end when everybody starting them up in a certain city where they allow that, in houses. And then the neighbors could come out with pitchforks, and that dream could end. And then it could go back to like, no, keep that shit in the apartments, in the urban areas, in the downtowns. And then, well, luckily we have places there too. So and another funny story, not really a funny story, but we got one of our places that we put on Zillow, one of our houses, speaking of the 4-bedroom, we have it on Zillow for like $5,000 a month. And it's three bedrooms and an office, but it could be converted into a 4th bedroom. But it's flexible, and I like the flexibility. So we got hit up by a CRS, one of the corporate housing providers, and they needed have a family, construction in the house. They need a place now. They always want it right now, right? And move in. They wanted to move in as soon as possible. We had someone leaving on the 11th. Right now, like I said, it's around the 6th or 7th right now. But anyways, we had another, like a nice size booking, like a 15-day booking for a high price coming in after that. They're gonna it was gonna take them through the holidays into the New Year's, and I was like, man, I just can't. If it's a one day out booking somewhere and it's jamming you up for like a 3-month, $20,000 stay, sorry, we could put those one day people somewhere else maybe, but this was a big stay for nice chunk of money. Plus, it was going to ruin their holidays that we need to say, the house is flooded, you can't come in.
Well, you just mentioned something there. So, not saying that everybody needs to be the biggest, the baddest, portfolio and so on and so forth. Is operating. I don't say operating. Well, operating with the sense or elements of a hotel, right? So if you have a larger portfolio, you have. I mean, I think you said this before in a previous episode. You have the potential to play Jenga, right?
Yeah.
Because you can move people around if they're in the markets that are or cities that are close enough to where they need to be, and capitalize on those opportunities. And it won't be a lost opportunity in that case. And
Right.
or the other scenario is be well connected with other operators like me, you, Micah, and others in the industry, whether it's local in your city, extended, to refer that out to somebody else that you then trust. And now, obviously, you may not make all the profit on that, but you could still potentially charge a commission, right? Because
Yeah.
that's a referral for them.
Yeah.
I actually had a really good, social media post earlier today where somebody was kind of confused on, midterm rental marketing and just marketing in general with short-term rentals. And one of the biggest factors that people discount, and it's easier than any other marketing strategy out there by far, is referrals. Nobody does referrals to other people, or very few people. And the ones that do start to cultivate that community. We have our WhatsApp group and all the other groups and chats and all that kind of stuff. Granted, you could be like some other folks and just post it out there and say, hey, I need somebody for a 2-bedroom, 2 pets, blah, blah, blah. But then you're just throwing them to the wolves, right? You don't have any idea of if are these people providing quality housing? Are they slumlords? And at that point, you referring them to those individuals, if something happens that's pretty bad, it's gonna come back on you. And that's your reputation, that's your company, and so on and so forth. But nobody thinks about that, right? Because nobody's, or very few people are running it as a business to where that would matter. So I think that's a huge thing that people are missing out on, is the referral piece of it.
Yeah, we got a huge, speaking of huge, a huge referral database, and we were able to find someone that we work with in the same area, like a few blocks away. Because I tried every scenario, and I have a long all the houses are booked up for Christmas. We did have one coming available right on the 21st, which was doable, but that they've been there they've been there for like 8 or 9 months, man. So I don't know.
Oh.
It's gonna need some good deep cleaning. I don't know, I don't know what I'm gonna step into when they finally leave. So I was like, that's not gonna work. So anyways, I was able to use, like you said, the referrals, gonna pass it on to someone else, get a little kickback for us, you know what I'm saying? And so but what I was gonna get to besides that was the CRS. I said, well, do y'all prefer furnished or unfurnished? Because I'm hearing these things out here, like ALE goes 100% unfurnished now, and then you guys, I know you guys love unfurnished. So what do y'all? It goes, well, she said, well, this is a 2-month stay, but she says probably gonna be longer, but it's at least 2 months, so we consider that super short. So we can't really, it's not worth it for us to do an unfurnished. We're gonna do a furnished one, and because we got to pay ourselves out of pocket, $3,000 to rent this furniture, right? And put it in place. She says insurance companies love it because they get like a total inventory of that was something I learned too. She was like showing me the behind the curtain a little bit. She goes, insurance companies love it when we furnish something because they get like an exact inventory of everything that's going to be in the place in case something happens, whatever. Instead of one of our operators, going and saying, hey, y'all broke my, Mona Lisa, you owe me $1 million.
I see what you mean.
And so, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That was kind of eye opening. I'm just saying that's the reason they like to do. They like to handle with unfurnished, so they'll know exactly what's going into the place for this family and what's coming out.
Yeah, that's smart. I have not seen them require it, although it is best practice because people do this on the long-term rental side, is to do the walkthrough checklist form, right? Where you have them submit it and say, hey, what's the condition of XYZ, blah, blah, blah. If they want to take pictures, blah, blah, if you want to take video. And we have our team do this before they arrive anyway. But just so everybody is clear, you can have them fill out that form too, right? So if there's I don't know, a hole in the wall or a dent on something, it's noted so that at the end you can't come back and say, hey, they put this dent here, because otherwise, it's your word against theirs. And unfortunately, and I'm sure there's probably been scenarios where they have gotten in trouble, or there's been, some friction between the people that are staying there and the homeowner, whoever's renting out that place, not wanting to give back their whole deposit because of, frivolous things, right? So, and this is also another reason for anybody that's out there when it comes to doing these types of stays with the midterms insurance clients, is typically, they're having to pay out of pocket for this security deposit, the family. In many cases, people may not have that to give, or it may put strain on them, right? And so they may potentially pass on your property, even though the monthly rate is fine with the insurance company. They approved it, is good. But if the security deposit is too much, they may pass on your property to go to another. Because I've heard of that happening before as well. Because you've got these people out there that have these, they're great properties. I get it. 3,000 square foot, 5-bedroom house, blah, blah, blah. And, they want $3,000. If you were doing a 12-month long renter, you'd probably do something like that. But for something like this, where, and I'm not saying, every family that you get from these insurance companies are not going to damage anything or whatnot. Obviously, it's based on your risk tolerance, your so on and so forth. But that's why we always say, one, require them to have renter's insurance, which you should be doing anyway, by the way. But typically, if they're coming from a home, they have homeowner's insurance, so they can provide that. But the other piece too is, by default, even for the short-term stays, you probably should get some type of damage protection insurance or a plan or whatnot to have on the property anyway. So I know one of the ones that we work with, I don't know if I can say it on here, but they basically charge you a rate per reservation that you have, and they can do these longer ones as well. You just have to split it up multiple times every 30 days. And it basically covers you. I think their highest coverage is up to $10,000 of damage.
Nice.
So you could technically, and it's no deductible, by the way.
Is it Super Hog?
It's not Super Hog. No.
Who is it? You go ahead and say. Okay.
I can say it.
Yeah.
It's WAVO.
WAVO.
Yeah. WAIVO. Yeah.
WAVO. Cool.
And so what that does is that takes the stress off. Now, I'm not saying you don't do a security deposit at all, because that's, you don't want to do that, because at that point you have no leverage at all and people are just going to do whatever they want to do, right? You want to still have some sense of control of the situation in terms of what they need to make sure that they maintain so they can get it back, right? But yeah, so you submit a claim like you would with Airbnb, as long as you have the documentation, which if you got your cleaners doing, timestamp photos and getting damaged and all that kind of stuff, getting your invoices, all that, it's pretty simple. We've done a couple claims with them already that have been paid out, and it hasn't been an issue. Obviously, the higher coverage you get, the more that flat rate is per reservation. But at the end of the day, it's a great peace of mind, because one of our properties we managed, we had a $3,000 couch that was messed up.
Oh, geez.
And clearly we didn't get that money from Airbnb, and we were able to get a good portion of that from WAVO. So things like that.
So how much is like 10,000 of coverage cost?
I have to look at the tiers, but I know for the coverage we have on the $1,500 is $21 per reservation, and I think the next tier 3,000 is like 29, right at 30 something. So yeah,
that's cheap.
It's not that expensive at all.
So you're paying that, but and then you're also getting a deposit from the people coming in.
Correct.
Oh, nice. So that way you can afford, you can risk asking for less of a deposit, like $1,000 deposit or something like that.
Exactly. Or 500. Want to do that?
Undercutting all of us, Mike Brown.
Think about it. Like, this is why I said in terms of being able to differentiate and act like the big guys, right? Because this is no different than what the apartment complexes do, right? How are they able to not charge you first month's rent If you got a two bedroom apartment that's $2,300, that security deposit is not $2,300, right? It's
Right.
like maybe 300 or 400, if even that.
Mhm.
But also, I will say they do base it on credit score and all that kind of stuff, so it could be more. But 9 times out of 10, if you got an 800 credit score and you go rent a single family home, they don't care about your credit score. They're gonna make you still do first month's deposit, right? But with an
Right.
apartment, they can scale that down. One, because it's minimal risk. They do have some type of coverage already built in, right, in their complex for all of this stuff. And so yeah, I mean you gotta use the same or similar tools like the big guys to really be able to stand out in the market. And yeah.
I would say that from what CRS told me, it would be good to have an inventory sheet handy, right? Of everything that's in your house. If that's what insurance companies are concerned with, they don't want, a $20,000 plasma TV. Is that even a thing? A plasma TV? Yeah. Or, and it's super expensive TV. They're like, oh crap, if those people break that thing, that's gonna really hurt. No, don't worry. We got Roku's, bro. Look on the sheet. We got Roku's. They're like $200 a piece. They're not very expensive. So feel free to let them stay here. Uh, I'm just saying we're trying to think like them, right? Try to think like the insurance companies.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Um, yeah, and to your point, it's good to just talk to them. I mean, they're human beings just like everyone else, right? So you mentioned, how you were able to talk to them and kind of get some of that information. And it's not, deceitful or anything, but and they may be able to share some of those insights, and that's going to help you be a better operator for that next inquiry that comes in, right? That's
Mhm.
insight that maybe no one else has. Um, and yeah, so I would highly recommend people, just getting to know and reaching out and having some type of touch basis with those people that reach out. Like I'm sure you have at this point, and I know we do as well. Like a whole list of all of the reps that we've gotten inquiries from, and we reach out to them on a normal basis. Um, send them gifts on holidays, all that stuff, right? Like
Mhm.
you got to think about it. This is a business, just not a one-way transaction kind of thing. So, all those kinds of things. And, there's this YouTube video that came out the other day that I want to talk about at some point. That talked up, it's like, it's called 101 marketing strategies for any business. Can you imagine having 101 marketing strategies for your STR? But you're laughing. This is what I'm talking about, man. Like people only think about the simple things, right? They just list it, and they literally give all the power to the OTAs and Airbnb to do the marketing for them. That's not how real business works, right? I
Right.
don't open up a pizza stand on the corner and say, hey, now in that scenario, you literally have a product that everyone can see, right? That's driving by, unlike a little single family home and whatever. Um, but in that scenario, you don't just rely on the building being there to make money, right? There's all these other things that business is going to do to try and drive traffic there, right? So anyway, I'd love to talk more about that in another episode because I've been considering making a YouTube video to dissect like that from a short-term rental perspective. So
Real quick about like you said in marketing. Um, on Airbnb, we have our logo there. We're Argus Rentals. We have our logo. It clearly states that. And then you go down to description, and our first line is, hosted by Argus Rentals, the best in corporate stays, or whatever we put our tagline, And I'm like, and still, I'm like, we don't get a million emails from people that are booking through Airbnb. I don't understand it, Mike Brown. Why aren't they? They can see it's right there. We're not a hard one. We're not super cozy, comfy stays where you can never find. There's like a billion of those, right? We are Argus Rentals. We're easy to find. Just look, Google Argus Rentals. We're going to be the first ones to show up. We're going to be the first website to show up. ArgusRentals.com. I mean, it's right freaking there in the logo, but people aren't pounding our doors down to direct stay with us. I don't understand it, Mike Brown.
yeah, it's one of those things, and it's always going to be it's always going to be tough until it really gets to a critical point, which I don't think it will, just because they have too much market share, too much trust, and stickiness, right? So we always talk about, obviously as humans, we're creatures of habit, and we put our trust in things that have been vetted, like Airbnb, VRBO, because they have this big company behind them. They know they have support if something goes wrong. They know that they won't be scammed. They're a public company. All these other things, right?
Yeah.
I could ask you a question. I could say, if I were, well, this is even different, because if I were to recommend it, you already have the pre-approval from me because I vetted it. But if you were to just randomly find or stumble across, which you wouldn't do that for a short-term rental, right? You wouldn't stumble across Argus Rentals. I mean, maybe if you went to Google and look up short-term rentals. Um, uh, if I were to ask you where you buy your toilet paper from, and then say, hey, would you want to buy it from this new company that just came out? It's called Toilet Paper Co.
Mm.
Exactly. So no. You're laughing, but that's literally what, like, in less than like a millisecond, what crosses through people's minds when they come to the idea that, okay, I need to find a place to stay because I'm going to this event or whatever. I'm going to see family in this city. I could do a hotel, but you also have to think about the avatars, right? So typically, the people that are not going to do a hotel are likely going to be families, and especially larger families or groups, because they have to get multiple hotel rooms. They're not going to be together in the same space. Granted, yeah, you can throw in the fact, hey, they're not going to have a kitchen and whatnot, but depending on what they're doing, they may or may not even use that kitchen to its capacity to make a difference anyway. And people with pets, because a lot of hotels don't allow pets, or they charge outrageous rates to bring pets. So those are going to be the two biggest factors, but it all comes down to trust. They don't know who your company is. Yes, you have a website, but they don't know that you're not going to scam them. They don't know if you have support. A lot of people unfortunately have been scammed, from stuff like this. So it kind of has put a bad taste in people's mouth, and people talk about that and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to trust. Because to your very point, we had someone that I can remember, and even if you put the data in front of them, right? It's like, hey, this is going to be your rate if you book on Airbnb. This is going to be your rate if you book with us. We had someone that was going to stay for 30 days. They actually called us first and said, hey, because they were a little bit more savvy, right? They saw the logo or the name. They said, hey, let me just call them and see. Say, hey, I saw your listing on Airbnb. We want to go ahead and book direct with you. I want to know how much that was going to be, and blah, blah, blah. Found out they'd saved like, I don't know, $700 or $800 over the course of the stay. And then when it came down to signing the rental agreement, which is basically a copy of our house rules that they already agreed to on Airbnb, right? Mm-hmm. They said, oh, we don't feel comfortable signing this or whatever. I'm like, you're agreeing to this already on Airbnb, which that goes to show you how much people don't read, and they just click the consent or whatever and all that kind of stuff. And so they did not book with us direct, but they booked through us through Airbnb for the exact same place and paid $800 more. That's how strong trust and vetting is, and brand recognition and everything else, right? That it's super strong, man. And then you got the stickiness of the app and the desktop. It looks sexy with all the colorful stuff and everything, and it's just seamless, right? So I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that the short-term rental industry, from a direct booking standpoint, has to overcome. I would say it's even worse in urban suburban markets, just based on the avatar, compared to destination vacation rental markets, right? And what I mean by that is somebody's going to like a beach town or the mountains or whatever. Those existed before Airbnb existed, right? So direct booking, that's their thing. So that's more normalized for that type of vacation rental, as opposed to what everybody else has been putting up for the past 2 3 years, in urban suburban markets, right?
Yeah.
So that's the big inertia that people have to overcome, and big hurdle that there is.
Yeah, and you bring up some good points, and I guess we can't see everything like how we see it through our own eyes. We got to see it how other people look at it, because since the beginning of Airbnb, if I saw a place on Airbnb and it said hosted by Susan Rentals, I'm gonna look up Susan Rentals and I'm gonna go call her directly. Hey, what's going on? I can get a discount if I book just through you. I can send you the money and you could block the dates and stuff. I always look for a discount. And then, of course, when it said hosted by Vacasa, they started hosting a bunch of these Airbnbs, back in the day. And now I'd go straight to Vacasa, and I was, oh, the price is cheaper on Vacasa. To me, I was like, it just made perfect sense to go, comb the web for the cheapest price. But I guess you're right. Most people are afraid to venture out and get out of the safety of Airbnb, especially people who've probably gotten a lot of free stays and will try to get a free stay from us.
That part right there. That part. They know that they can't play you if they do it direct. Oh man, I mean, you're right. Unfortunately, there's people that, try to scam hosts too. So, it's much harder to do that, because I don't know about you guys, but for us, any direct bookings, we take a security deposit. It's just a standard protocol. I mean, obviously we don't do that, and many hosts don't do that on the platforms, because it brings you down in rankings, right? And people typically don't want to pay a security deposit, even if it's just a hold, right? Because you'd be surprised in many cases, the people that book these, whether it's a group or an individual on behalf of a group, this may be at the top of their budget or even already over their budget. So to do a security deposit on top of that, I mean, it can be a lot for people. Because you got to think about this too. Now, I'm not saying that this is the majority of the avatars or people that are booking, but just historically, based on data and statistics, it may have fluctuated a little bit with inflation and what's going on in the economy right now, but anywhere between 70 and 75% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, right? So let's just say, we assume that the remainder of the 25% aren't all just, traveling, right? Or going places and doing things. Because people travel for the holidays. People are going to do what they want to do, even if that means putting on a credit card or whatever else, right? To make it happen, to extend and stretch the dollar. And so when you think about that, it's like, man, doing anything above and beyond that's not necessary, like a security deposit, can really put you out of the running if people are comparing two places side by side that are super similar, right? At least on the OTA. And in the case of doing it off platform versus on platform where you don't have it, that could make a differentiator as well. Because I don't know if you noticed, I don't know how if you've rented on Airbnb recently, but they offer an installment plan now for stays. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
That's been for a while though.
It has been. Okay, all right. I knew it was for longer stays, but I booked one night not too long ago for a place, and they will do a 4-month installment plan for a one night stay.
I didn't know that.
It was only like $200 to book the place, and I was like, why would somebody do that? That's wild. But anyway, we talked about the other payment processor or whatever that allows you to do that. So we talked about differentiating. You could offer that product to a guest. You remember I told you about that? You could offer that to pay it to a guest that maybe is having some issues doing everything up front or so on and so forth. And on VRBO, that's a strategy, because you can opt into that, right? You can do half now, half, so many days before they arrive. It's unfortunate that Airbnb doesn't do that, but I know why. It's because they want all their money, then, right? And they want to hold it, not give you interest for holding your money, and then give you your money after they. Anyway,
I thought they did let you do that. I thought they let you do 2 payments. I think I've done that before.
They let you do it automatically. I'm talking about opting in to receiving the money. I'm sorry. Opting into doing your own custom, right?
Okay.
So they do that automatically for all
Yeah.
hosts, right?
You're right.
Because it's on the guest side. But
Mhm.
you as a host can't say, "Hey, well, I want all of it to be paid today, or if I want some of it to be paid." Anyway, it's just a way to stretch the dollar again, right? So I know for all of our VRBO listings, we have it set up like that to where it's going to charge them half today, and then if it's more than 14 days out, it'll charge the other half 14 days before they arrive,
Mm.
or even 7 days before they arrive.
Now
So
check this out, Mike Brown. I've been dying to ask you this. I'm glad you're on the podcast today, so I can ask you in front of all these people that are listening in their car or doing what they're doing.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
It's not not that kind of question. So you had mentioned, okay, the band is coming to Dallas, and this could be any town that a band is coming to, and most of the time they want to get rid of it out of residential, right? And a lot of times the cities will leave it in multifamilies, even if they're pretty strict, they'll still let multifamily do it to an extent. So you said something like, here's a good strategy. If you have multiple units at one complex, rent them out 2 or 3, together, which will kind of make like a makeshift house because all those people are going to be losing their stays, because of the ban. And then they'll go book your 3 unit, together to make it a house. But I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. But a lot of times people get value out of renting a house because they're spending like, $200 a night for a house, 250. I know they go way up. I know they go down too. But I'm just saying, you can get a house in Dallas for around, $200. I'm saying. And that's a 3-bedroom house. They're gonna put all the family in. But if they're gonna rent 3 of my 1-bedroom condos, I want to get like $100 a night for my 1-bedroom condos. How does that make sense financially for me to turn those into a house where people were going to pay less at a house anyways? I can't sit there and charge $300. I'm getting into a competition with, well, they'll just like, oh, we'll just get a hotel and we'll get the hotel rooms side by side. You know what I'm saying? So why would they choose me over that hotel? Plus I'd have to drop my price to 200 for these 3 things together to compete with what they might have been leaving behind. And I don't know. How did that, it looks good on paper. And we have a few units that we tried that at before. It's never worked gangbusters. Maybe you crack the code for us here, Mike Brown. You're on the spot.
I see. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Ideally, if those units would have to be, fairly close to each other if they're in the same complex, clearly on the same hallway, but they almost kind of need to be like next door to each other, right? Or across the hall from each other to have that proximity to make it be homey or feel like a home. And you're right. You said you tried it, but you tried it in a market where there's still homes available to rent. You have not tried it in a market where homes are not available to rent. That's a very different story, right? So
Yeah.
I think that would allow you to escalate that price to where you would want. Yes. So to your point, in a market where there are homes, you're competing with homes. Yes, it can be very difficult because one, that's going to be more logistics for you too, right? So now you got to give out 3 smart lock codes. You got to do this and that, and one of the things that because I think we've only done this once or twice on one of the townhome or duplexes we have, is to consider, and this is why having a good cleaning team and QA/QC team is important, is when you got this one family or 2 families, however many families, sharing these 2 units or 3 units, how do you know that they're not bringing stuff from one unit to the other unit and the counts are
Mm,
off and all that, right? And then when
yeah.
you go back to switch to a single stay for somebody in one unit, they're like, there's only 2 plates in here, or there's only 1 glass in here.
This remote control don't work.
Yeah, this is not working for this. So that's very, very crucial, man. I'm telling you. So that's, if you're gonna do that, you need to be spot on with that clean sweep after it's done to make sure everything's good. So yeah, I mean, I think it works very well in a market where there are very limited single family homes or larger spaces. And I'd also say too, it's hard to compete doing that if all of your apartments only have the minimal capacity for each bedroom. So I'll tell you what I mean. If you only have 1 bed in a 1-bedroom apartment and you try to rent out 3 of those, and say it's a 3-bedroom house, yeah, you're clearly not going to get the value because you can't get the occupancy numbers that you would otherwise, right? I would say you'd have to have, and I'm not saying just throwing in air mattresses because people don't necessarily want to sleep on those. I'm saying if you're going to do that, you probably need to have double beds in 1 or 2 of those units, kind of like a hotel, right? To maximize the occupancy, because let's just say if you had 2 of those units with double beds, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 people that you could sleep comfortably. And if they want to add on 2 more people, 12. I mean, that's some big numbers, right? So I mean, you could, depending on how nice they are, and that's why it's great to focus on design and amenities that's there, because now they have access to things that maybe they wouldn't have with a house, right? You got access to a gym, access to a pool, right? So those are other amenities you bring to the table that some houses won't. So I can tell you 99% of houses don't have a gym. so there's that. And then if you're in one of those fancy fancy apartments that has like a movie room or whatever, or a dog run and all this, a game room, all that other stuff, I mean, I'm not saying the sky is the limit, but you can compete on that level again, and more so in a market that has limited single family homes.
A funny side note, Mike Brown almost hooked us up with the deal of the century, getting all of 15 of our Dallas units rented out to this company coming to town. But it turned out that they all wanted a gym. They all wanted a gym, right? Our places didn't have gyms. And we even offered, hey, how about we'll pay you for your $10 a month membership for each guy at the places, man. But the thing is, they wanted a gym, but they didn't want to spend more than like, what was it, $1,800 or $1,900 a month? You know what I'm saying? They wanted all the amenities. They wanted a gym, pool, whatever, and they want to spend.
Have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. And they want to all stay together, same place, cheap rent, and a gym. And the gym was the deal breaker. The gym, I was like, come on, man. Put some free weights in there. Do some push-ups. Do some pull-ups on the You don't need a gym. But yeah.
Weird. And that scenario is like, we'll get you the gym membership, and I'll pay you for every day for every person that goes to the gym. We're gonna have their card swipe. We're gonna know when they go. And they're not gonna go. Come on. They just want to have a gym just to say they have a gym. I think maybe 10%, maybe 20% of people actually use it. But it's just like the normal apartment complexes, right? People don't use the gyms there.
No,
there's so many people that live in apartments that pay for LA Fitness and 24-hour fitness and all this stuff. It's like you have one right there in your building. So yeah,
there's cobwebs at those gyms, man. No one uses those things. It's funny. I used to when I was a young whippersnapper. I loved the apartment gym. I get there in the morning before work, bust out a good workout.
You have to drive anywhere and all that.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. So yeah, that was a little funny side note. I got a bunch of notes here. We have so much to cover, Mike Brown. We're coming up on it though, I think. But the thing is, yeah, the big news was the Dallas ban being injuncted, which I didn't think was going to happen, honestly, because I saw them try to sue the city of Arlington. I tried to sue all these different cities. People have tried lawsuits, and the cities have bottomless pockets to pay for the best law firms money can buy, which is from our tax dollars. So they don't get scared when you say you're going to sue them. I could choose anything. Let me just. I was gonna say. Go ahead. You have.
I was gonna say you guys should definitely get Theron back on at some point while this is all happening. I think it'd be good to get his perspective. I haven't heard from him in a while, but this all started with, well, it started before him, but he's the one that kind of threw the gasoline on the whole, process and what they were doing and getting people involved and getting it organized in a more cohesive manner. And I love the work that he was able to do while he was, here working with Dallas STRA. And they just took it and ran with it from there. So anyway, I'd love to hear his perspective. But to your point, I mean, I'm sure you guys will post a link or whatnot, but with the injunction, what that does is it basically delays the enforcement of the new rules until June of 2024. So those that are operating can still operate. Before, it was actually going to go into effect December 13th. So I was mistaken. December 13th, which would basically wipe out 90% of all the listings. And we've seen, I mean, I know you've probably seen it more than I have, you know, the listings that have come offline. And I mean, we've been seeing some good bookings come through, you know, even November, December, and slow season now, right? I think a lot of people are also, you know, for those that started, you know, maybe right after COVID or during COVID or whatnot, there's a trend, which I'm sure you're aware of, where people are now, especially with the economy and the uncertainty of everything, people are now doing more last minute stays, right? So that lead time is much shorter than what it used to be, even for larger groups, even for groups of 10, 15 people or more. They're booking like a week out or 2 weeks out. It's pretty rare, and you can even look at your own data back from last year that people are booking places out, you know, 30 days, 60 days kind of thing, right? Because they're just uncertain. You know, now granted, it also depends on what your cancellation policy is, because that will, you know, have people make a decision one way or the other. But so two things with that. One, don't discount your prices too much, you know, as it gets closer to the day, because people are really antsy, right? You know, when they look at the month ahead and they're like, man, only a couple of days are full or whatever. Don't panic. Don't panic. Because you get a lot of people that want a full calendar on December 1st. And it's like, it's okay. It's okay. And they want to, you know, significantly discount because they want some money rather than no money, right? And that's definitely something you don't want to do. So anyway, I'm just saying in general, with that particular strategy, you know, a lot of people are seeing, you know, those last minute stays, whatever. So
last man standing, baby.
Yeah. And I would say for those that are trying to do midterm rentals, I mean, that should be your mindset. You don't want to have a full calendar at the first of the month kind of thing if you intend on getting a large insurance booking for homes. I would say for apartments, it's less likely. I don't think we've ever gotten an insurance claim for an apartment, even for our 2 bedrooms. It's just not comparable because families are typically going to be staying at home and they want an equivalent home, such as they got pets in the yard, all that stuff. So, yeah, I'll shut up there.
I was adjusting my price strategy today. I wanted to go over prices with you, and rule sets and all that cool stuff. And the thing is, and you're right when you said that, I was gonna butt in and say, you know, hey, yeah, that shit don't work with 1 bedrooms, man. You don't want to be the last man standing there. And so, but the thing is, I had gone in, you know, when I kind of took over the company 100%, I started playing around because I was like, okay, I'm the midterm guru in my business, you know, me and my partner Manu, we're the midterm guys. So I want to set up this rules, all the price lab stuff to very heavy on the, you know, keeping the longer bookings away, keeping them out bay, or they have to pay a lot of money and it's a longer minimum stay. Because I want to keep the sheets clean in the future, so I can land these midterm stays, man. And I will keep the sheets clean, man. And so it worked gangbusters for the houses, because then you know, it wouldn't, like, people wouldn't, you know, cherry pick far out or whatever and keep us from getting these midterm stays. And we were all of our houses we were getting midterm bookings, man. It's beautiful. But the thing is, for the 1 bedrooms, it was not a good strategy. It's not a good strategy. I'd have to do the thing, like you said, discount the next, you know, 1 week, 2 weeks out. Just I'd keep them booked, but it was so much freaking work, you know. And now I've transitioned to doing those, where doing the more the rule set play, you know, that Sean teaches, and my buddy George Salas, you know, he teaches, where you do the, you know, they get a discount for, if they do 2 nights, they get like a 35% discount. They do 3 nights, they get a 40%. And it goes up and up until like a week stay, and then a month stay, you get like a 65% discount or something. It's to encourage the longer stays and fill up the calendars, you know, and have less gaps in between. That works great for the 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, because you can't just use the same strategy for the houses, and you know that, and you brought it up. So I'm glad, and I want to know what your pricing strategy is, because you do have a mixed bag.
Yeah, so it varies by the property type, and what the avatar and the goal is, right? So if you've got a house, I mean, basically we use the same strategy for all the single family homes, because we do want those to have the opportunity to get a midterm rental insurance person, whoever that is, or even B2B multi-month stay, by having a calendar that's pretty open in the future, right? And when you think about it, even vice versa, we've had people where other individuals have canceled their stays, right? And they need somewhere to stay, right? So if somebody's canceled on somebody this upcoming weekend for whatever reason, maybe they got an insurance client and they want to kick them out to get the insurance client to come in.
My bad.
And you still and you still have your place available. You shouldn't have discounted, once you got to the beginning of the week, you shouldn't discount anymore, right? People will try to keep going and going and going until the day before or the day of. And it's like, that's when you want, because they don't have anywhere else to go at that point, especially if it's a big group, right? So those are the kinds of things. So, and so we also have we have a gradual, because we use Price Labs. I don't know if you guys use Price Labs, right?
Yeah, Price Labs.
Yeah, so we have a gradual discount from 14 days out. I think it's like 40% or 50% or something like that. So basically it'll whatever 14 days, it'll divide 40% discount, and each day it'll chip away. You get more and more of a discount as it gets closer to the check-in day.
And that's for the houses?
Yeah. Okay. And then we have the minimum stay rule set on top of that. So for example, don't quote me on this, I'm just giving an example. Let's just say 14, well, let's just say 30 days out, you have a 3-night minimum. Then 45 days out, you have a 5-night minimum. And then more days out than that, you have a 7-night minimum, right? So it minimizes people trying to book 2 nights or 3 nights or whatever that are farther out. So you still have that buffer. Because remember, you said it earlier, typically those insurance clients, they want something now. The maximum that they're willing to wait is 2 weeks that I've ever seen. Yeah. Otherwise, they're just going to go somewhere else, right? And find another property that's available next week or something, as opposed to 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, especially in the emergency situations. It's rare, because I think we had one person where they were trying to, they had been working with the insurance back and forth. They had some flood damage and some flooring need to be replaced. In fact, basically the whole house is varying conditions. They said they had been going back and forth with the insurance company for like 2 or 3 months. I was like, you're just now finding a place to stay? So every situation is different. But usually those people are ready to get out of there, immediately, so they can get to work, start, so on and so forth. Like I was telling you before, the people that are staying with us now, it's been 10 months. It was originally supposed to be 3 months. So 4 months, 4 months, it extended and extended again. Now to 10 months. It was a living room fire. So you would think contractors can rebuild a living room, but with fires, it'd be very tricky. The smoke damage can definitely, even though the fire doesn't touch the other rooms, the smoke damage could do some bad damage, and you got to still replace stuff. So, yeah, it's interesting. And also a part of the it's not a rule set, but it's something you have to manually do, is with the what is it? With those, once you get an insurance client or a midterm stay person, period, but more so with the insurance client than, let's just say, a traveling nurse or someone else, you want to automatically, or you have to do it manually, not automatically, but just put it in your standard operating procedures for your VAs or your assistant to go in and switch all your listings. Obviously, if you're working from a property management system, you want to do it from that. But if you don't have a PMS, you have to go into each listing. So Airbnb, VRBO, switch it to request only, because you don't want to get somebody to instant book let's just say a week after they're supposed to leave, when the calendar is now open, right? It's blocked off for 3 or 4 months, and then you get closer, and then somebody books 2 days or whatever, on a random weekend or whatnot, and then the insurance company comes back and say, "Oh, they need to extend another 3 months." Now your calendar is blocked up, right? So at least by switching to request, you have the authority to make that decision depending on how far out it is from that time frame, right? Usually for us, if it's any more than 30 days, sorry, if it's any more than 30 days from when the insurance client is going to leave, we just say no, we can't accommodate. Once it's a little bit less than that, because typically they put in their 30-day notice, right? Then it's kind of a gray area. Usually they're going to extend before 30 days. At the very least, maybe 15 days before. But yeah.
Get that urgent email from the CHP. Urgent.
Yeah, we got one of those today. Yeah.
We want to extend. Say yes.
So which actually brings me to another point, and we could probably talk more detail about this a little bit later, is do you ever negotiate another rate when they renew? Most don't.
I ain't done that yet.
It depends on what you agree to when you initially come on board with them and they sign a lease and all that kind of stuff, because you could.
Yeah.
Especially, I won't say not to be greedy, but when you think about the timing and the seasonality, so if they're extending and it's summertime,
yeah, and
you're coming out of winter, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's a very different story. So you would want to escalate that rate. And sometimes they'll ask, sometimes they'll say, "Hey, we're just doing another month and it's going to be the same rate." And that's when you got to say, "Wait a minute, this is." But anyway, so it's just something to consider, I think, and a lot of people probably just keep the gravy train going and not to buck the horse, as you say. So.
Yeah. It depends on how much they're paying you. They're paying you over $5,000 a month. You're gonna try to get 6 from them the next when their thing is over. I mean, you probably could, but I mean, are you burning some bridges there like this freaking guy? I always think that it's a small world. It's a small world.
Yeah, it is. You don't want to do that. Yeah. So you get them comfortable and then you snatch the rug off.
Now, what I've been doing, and I don't know if this is good or not, whatever. It's been working for me. Is if it's a 3-month stay, insurance claim, I'll either close off 4 or 5 months, just to give myself a bubble. After I'll close off those months, and as it gets into the 4 and 5 months, then I'll just keep like a 1-month bubble, because it's we're gonna be out this month. We should be out. I'm like, I'm not gonna keep 2 months closed off. I keep like a month closed off just to give a buffer, because usually I would say like 85% of the time they will extend at least 1 month from that 3 month. It's a miracle when they do leave 3 months. I'm like, you sure y'all leaving? But it's about 85% of that time they're gonna extend for about 1 month, and then extending another month drops down to about 10-15%. It happens, but it's not. It drops significantly.
We had one time where I think they extended prematurely. They were supposed to be. They gave the notice to vacate, and then a couple of days later, they said, "Oh no, they actually need to stay another month." They, signed the lease renewal. They sent the money, and then a week later, they were gone. And I was like, "What's going on?" And basically, for some reason, the client or the homeowner didn't communicate well with the insurance company to say that, hey, the repairs are done, or whatever reason. There was some miscommunication somewhere, and basically we had almost a whole month. I mean, they still had to pay it, right? Because you put in your notice when you actually cancel. So they waited until the week before they left to then put in the notice, and by that time, so I think a lot of them rather be safe than sorry, and they'll send the notice to vacate anyway, because they did that to us for the one that just got extended, just to save themselves so they don't pay for any extra, right? And then if they need to actually extend, they'll come and ask you, hey, we need to extend a little bit closer towards the end. So, because these contractors, their schedules are always wonky, and they think they're going to be done at this time, and they're not. So,
hey, premature extenuation does happen, Mike Brown, as you know, firsthand. Yeah, I mean that's that. Man, we talked about some good stuff today. I was gonna bring up to you. There's so many different things I want to ask you, Mike Brown. Oh, speaking of negotiations, here's the thing. At one of the houses, we just barely got this house, right? This arbitrage over here in Grand Prairie, and it got booked, 2 months right off the bat. These guys wanted it. We just barely got it finished, and they moved in, construction crew, whatever. Anyways, I'm not liking how I'm dealing with the foreman. I think the foreman is the one that put him up in this place. I'm not really liking the communication and all that. I'm getting paid. I have to meet him up and get paid in cash because he wants to pay me in cash for some reason. I don't understand why he wouldn't want to document that he's paying for rent for, whatever reason he's giving me cash. Yeah, it is interesting. And so then the checkout date was this past week. It's supposed to be on the 4th, right? Supposed to check out on the 4th. I even texted him that morning just to be sure. I mean, we put the bookings inside of Hospitable manually, you know what I'm saying, direct bookings, and it's supposed to send him an email and he gets all the confirmation, all the stuff, whatever. And but I still wanted, because just the way this guy's been communicating, I went ahead and sent him a text in the morning. Hey man, just I know it's checkout day, our cleaners will be there at 11, just letting you know, thank you for staying with us. And he texted back. He said, oh, they left last night. I was like, okay, cool. That's no big deal. That happens all the time, right? Whatever. Excuse me. But so my cleaner got there. Well, she got, I said, well, they left already. She had a full day, but she was gonna get there around, 12 or 1 or whatever. And she gets there and she said, hey, there's 2 cars still here out in the driveway. I'm like, what? And so there shouldn't be anybody there. They said they left last night. I was like, I called up the dude. He answered, hey, hello. I'm like, hey man, this is Steven at the house that you're renting. And he's like, okay. I'm like, yeah, you said your guys left last night. There's 2 cars in the driveway. He goes, the Grand Prairie house. Like, he didn't even know who the hell I was, right? I'm like, yeah, I texted you this morning. You said that they left last night. And he's like, oh, I thought that was someone was texting about, because I have some guys staying at some hotels. And I thought it was the hotel texting me or the whatever, because I don't have your number saved on my phone. What the
interesting.
He's like, yeah, they didn't tell you they want to go ahead and extend for another month. But here's the thing, I already got another booking coming in like in about 10 days, right? 10 or hold on. Excuse me. And so I was like, well, they can't extend. I already got another booking coming in. He goes, when are they coming? When is the next booking coming in? And I told him. And so he said, well, can they extend out to that time? Do you have anything else they can go to after that? And I was just frustrated working with this guy, right? I said, well, they can extend out for this amount of time. It's gonna be $1,500. I raised the price. I said, or they gotta leave right now. And he's like, or you gotta find hotel rooms, whatever you gotta do. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and I can get you the $1,500 today. I can meet you, blah blah blah. And so in that scenario, I wasn't going to negotiate. I was like, I raised the price significantly for these few days. I got to extend, and I went, grab my money, whatever. They're able to extend out a little bit. And he asked about this other place that I had, in Grand Prairie, and I was, like I said, I'm in the position of I don't really want to deal with them. If they want to stay, it's going to be on my terms, and it felt good to be negotiating from a point of power for a change, you know what I'm saying? Where instead of, I hope I get this booking, I hope this, CHP calls me back.
I think it goes down to, like many hosts, they don't know their value.
Exactly.
Right? Or the value of their place. And yes, to your point, it all depends on circumstance, right? So conditions and whatnot. In this case, it lined up perfectly to be able to execute on that. So, yeah, I mean, those scenarios, you can't have people run over you like that because they'll do it again, right?
So here's the funny part. I do have a place that they can go to right after this stay, and they can stay there all the way till the 21st or whatever you needed, but we have someone coming in, so they can stay there for that period of time. But I said that place we rent for $5,000 a month, and it's going to be that rate, and so it's going to be this much money. I think it came out to like $1,300, right? And he's like, we'll give you $1,000. Like, really, mother freaker, you gonna negotiate with me here? I was like, no, sorry, man. And I knew he's got 6 guys, right? He got 6 guys. I said, not, we can't do that. I'm sorry about that, man. That brings the rate to like $125 a night. I mean, I'm sure you could find. I mean, if you could find a house out there for $125, that's great. But otherwise, good luck, and hope you find up some hotels. And so, sorry, my throat.
It's gonna be like 150. That's gonna be like 200 a night minimum. I mean, unless they're gonna be at a shack somewhere, because 6 guys, that's at least three rooms, right?
You can't put 6 guys in one room, in one hotel room. And so anyways, I knew I was in a position of power. I wasn't budgeting for them. I said, it's $1,300 for these few days. You gotta stay there. And I texted, he didn't say nothing. I texted back today. So are they gonna do this or what? I gotta block the days or what? He said, yeah, we'll go ahead and do it. And so I was like, he went and said, oh, we'll do $1,150. Everybody's happy. $1,150 and we'll cut the difference, split the difference. How's that? I was like, no, dude, we can't do that. It's $1,300. Can you do it or not? And he said, yeah, okay, I can do $1,300. I was like, man, it's good.
Hey, you need to be charging an extra to go and pick up this cash, man.
That's a good point too.
There's a trip fee if we're taking cash money. We live in the digital age. We got a lot of options. We got Zelle. We got Stripe, Cash App, PayPal. Well, you name it.
It is cool to feel
like an extra fee if you want to pay cash.
It is cool to feel like a pimp for a few minutes until you put it in the bank. I don't know. There's that.
So I need to put my bodyguard on retainer so I can, make sure I'm good at the pickup point, and when I leave.
Yeah, I don't get, jumped around the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, no, really though. So
no,
some people don't do that. I mean, it's a safety thing, right?
It is a safety thing, and it's funny. Same thing with this guy when I was gonna go meet these guys that were checking into the house, and they happened to be at night because they worked all day, and he gave them the money to deliver to me in Grand Prairie. I told my buddy in Grand Prairie if he could meet me out there, and he said, "Okay, which gun do I need to bring?" And I was like, just show up, just to show that someone's there with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he showed up, and they were real cool. He was cool with them. My buddy's an outgoing guy, David Law. You met David.
Oh yeah.
Older white dude. Yeah. And so and anyways, that whole night, I got the money and I was leaving, and he was leaving. He was making the guys laugh. You know how David is. And he's like, "Oh, by the way, guys," and he pulled a case out of his car. He goes, "A good thing you guys are good because I wouldn't have to use this." And he opened it up, and it was a freaking gun. And they're like, "Whoa!" But they were like, "How cool, man! What kind of gun?" They weren't freaked out, but I was like, "Oh shit, he did bring a gun." But anyways, yeah, fast times and short-term rentals, baby. Short-term, midterm rentals. That's what we do. Thank you for hopping on, Mike Brown. You got any closing thoughts for us? What can you tell these lovely listeners out there?
Oh man, I would say with the changing industries within short-term rental, midterm rentals, is always be thinking like a business. Always be ready to pivot, be agile, nimble, flexible, whatever you want to call it, and can always be learning. Right? I cannot tell you, there's not a day that goes by where I do not learn not learn something new about short-term rentals. Like it's limitless. It literally is limitless. So don't think that you know it all. Don't think that you have all the answers, because you probably don't. And just lean on other people. Create a network like we've done with our group and our people, to do the referrals that we talked about, to share knowledge, connect at meetups, locally, all that kind of stuff, and just educate others. So, because as I mentioned before, and I'll keep saying it again, people that are not properly educated, because I'm mentoring somebody now actually that's trying to get started actually here in Dallas, by the way. So, I got to take them a couple of steps back, and say, well, let's take a look at, the market research and all this stuff. And it's all, before you just make a decision that, hey, everybody else is in Dallas or I'm in Dallas, let's do it in Dallas. I said time and time before is, anybody that's not educated properly is a liability to themselves and a liability to everybody else in the industry. That lack of knowledge is going to make them do something that they should not do. That could, put, them at risk, their guests at risk, so on and so forth, and or put a bad taste in other people's mouths around the perspective of short-term rentals, right? Because of what they did wrong. They allowed a party to happen, or somebody got hurt or shot or whatever that is. And not saying we can't prevent everything, but there's a lot of information out there that can help. A lot of stuff can be prevented, right? So I'll leave it at that. And definitely appreciate you bringing me on. Always enjoy this. Sorry that Micah couldn't make it today, but
where can people find you, Mike Brown, to chat? He loves to chat.
Yeah. So I'm in most of the short-term rental groups on Facebook. You can also find us on PBD online, or PBD Stays on our Instagram. And one of the other things we're doing now too is helping other operators expand their reach, especially on the direct booking side, not by making websites, because anybody can do a website. Most people probably already have websites, but it's using social media to drive traffic for bookings and creating a brand. Because ultimately, like you mentioned earlier, getting over that trust factor, you have to have a brand and brand recognition, even if it's in your local market. I'm not saying you need to be Walmart or McDonald's or anything like that, but helping them achieve that. So, I'll share more on that on the next one.
Sweet. Good touching base with you, Mike Brown. Find us at liveletthrive.com, liveletthrive@gmail.com, live let thrive emails, whatever they are. At liveletthrive for all the social media stuff. Hey, hit me up, man. I'm around Argest Rentals, ARGEST rentals.com. Argest is the largest. And thank y'all for listening. We love you all, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Live, Let, Thrive. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest in the world of Airbnb and all that entails. Bye-bye.